And here we are on another walk, another walkie talkie. And I was thinking to come a bit more prepared for chat. So, one of the things that I had a brief conversation in my comments section with Dean from Escape to Gaming. Was it late last week or early this week? I lose track of time. It was about certain games that could do with a remaster. We were talking about the Turok games because we've had the first 3 games done, but we've not had the others. There were other Turok games that came out. There was Evolution on. It came out around the time of the original Xbox, and I think it was just called Turok that came out on like the Xbox 360 and PS3. There may have been others, but those are the 2 that stuck in my mind. And I was thinking, like, yeah, they could do with a remaster. That'd be pretty cool. And it also led me to thinking, I mentioned in one of my other previous walkies about the Resistance games on the PlayStation. We had 3 of them on the PS3, and then the team behind it went on to do other stuff, and then nothing. The same with Killzone. Guerrilla have gone on to do the Horizon Zero Dawn games, but they've not. They've never bothered to go back and remaster the other ones, the earlier ones. Right. So yeah, those remasters, they would be really good if you could get some in. So yeah, get some of those games remastered, you know, on the if you can see that, probably not, but yeah, anyway, I'm already off to do a bit of editing, I think, on this one. What I'll do is I'll catch you up in the park. It's usually where I end up getting the best bit of the chat out of the way. I always use this bit as just a bit of an intro to what I'm going to be talking about, this little part of the walk. So yeah, I'll see you in the park. Make sure I press record this time, after the absolute debacle last week, where I went halfway around the bloody park and wondered why my camera had turned itself off. And that's because I hadn't pressed record. So we've done that this time. So yeah, these remasters that I was talking about, there's a whole load of them I'd like to see. And in some cases it's just so you can actually get the games on modern systems to work properly. Because we've lost a lot of games to the mists of time. And I'm not talking about buying these things as part of like an online only cloud gaming requirement thing, you know, that temporary nonsense that they're pushing these days. No, I'm talking about actual proper releases. Now, I understand that in most cases it's going to be digitally digitally only releases. I get that, but at the same time, I don't see any reason why they can't be done properly as a release, rather than just some, crappy cloud version of the game. You see it so often with these games that come out on the cloud, the aspect ratio is all off. The control system is all off, and what have you. So, no, I want to see it done properly, like they've done with the Turok games and what have you. Want to see it done like that. I don't want to see it done in the way that they've been doing it with, you see like the PS1 games that you can get on the PS5, and yeah, they've done it so, right, it upscales. No, I'm talking proper release. Like I say, like they did with Turok, like they've done with Blood. They're actually doing another release of that, which should be interesting. It should be interesting to see what they do with it. They did it with the System Shock too. It doesn't have to be a full-on remake like they did with System Shock. Just a standard remaster would be fine. I said. Don't really care otherwise, just that. It doesn't need to be a boxed release, because these days, I understand that box releases are quite expensive to do, and that would be an excuse for them not to do it. They look for any excuse, don't they, to not give gamers what they want or what would be good. But yeah, that is loads, absolute loads, and I think that they would do well. Some might not, but I think a substantial amount would do quite well. I think that's fair to say. You look at, like I say, Turok games must have done alright, because they released 3 of them. They've just done the Soul Reaver games, the Legacy of Kain ones. They've just done them recently. They've done the Dark Forces. It was a great game. That was a brilliant remaster. They kept the, I don't need it to be a complete remake, and they didn't do that with Dark Forces. They just remastered it. They made some improvements, modernised the controls so it'll work on a modern control system, and released it, and it was great. That's all you need. But there always seems to be some sort of reticence to doing it, for like the majority of classic games that was out there. EA, like I've said before, my hope is now that they've been bought out, that they've got people in there now, or they'll put people in there that are like, we're sat on a goldmine of classic games like the Strike series, Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, Urban Strike, Soviet Strike, Nuclear Strike. You know, we've got Road Rash. You know, one of the most beloved racing games in the 16-bit era. Awesome soundtrack, great games and what have you. You know, and yet they don't do anything with it. They're not doing anything with these titles at all. You know, why? After all these years. I mean, one of the issues, I suppose, with the Road Rash that came out on PC and PlayStation, and I think the 3DO as well, might have even been out on the Saturn, I don't know, back in the day, was the soundtrack licensing, because they had music from like grunge bands of the day like Soundgarden and what have you. Brilliant soundtrack. But just take that bit out if that's a problem, because that wasn't in the actual game itself when you were playing. They were just videos, in the menu and what have you, like FMV videos that played. That was the rage back then, with, you know, CD-ROM enabled full motion video. And there are FMV videos that they could still use them today. They were paid actors doing a part. That's not a licensing issue. So there's no reason why. There's no real reason why they can't use that. It just seems like it's a lack of desire as opposed to anything else. And it's weird because it's easy money. You know, they go on about the difficulties in making money, these companies. But what they mean is they don't make enough. They do make money, make a lot of money. It's just they don't make money in the sort of way that you would do if the world was about to end, kind of money. You know, where these people want to buy their island paradise to get away from the inevitable apocalypse. That's what it seems like to me. Yeah. But yeah, you know, there's no real reason why we can't get remasters of these great games. I mean, I'm going way back into the, you know, mid-90s there. You know, you can even go back a couple of generations. And like I've already mentioned, Killzone. Wow. The last Killzone we had was for the launch of the PS4. Back in, what was that, 2013? It's like 12 years ago. Resistance, we've not had anything since the PS3 era. And again, why? Why no remaster? It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense in the slightest. These trees are showing they're resisting the autumn so far. Hanging in there, mind you. It's not as cold today as it was yesterday. Weather's fluctuating a bit, which is wrecking my sinuses. I'll say that much. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has got a game that they would love to see remastered. I certainly, you know, I'm just picking out a few here. There's loads. I want to see Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight. I want to see that remastered, because you can get the old ones to work on modern systems, but it's a bit of a menace. I can't get it to run with hardware acceleration, so it looks like crap in software mode. I've tried the mod, but it just doesn't work. It just gives me a black screen. There's a mod out there that was supposed to be able to fix that, but I don't know how old it is, but with my graphics card on the PC, it's just a black screen. The only way I can play it is in software mode, and it doesn't look great. I mean, that game is prime example for what would make a really good remaster. They've done the others, funnily enough. I say they did Dark Forces, and they did updates to Jedi Knight 2 and Jedi Academy. You can play them with hardware acceleration on PC, and they're also available on the modern consoles. They play perfectly fine. They did a good job with that. But Dark Forces 2, I know it's got FMV, but again, it's not a licensing issue. That much is for certain. Because if you could do the others, you can do that one as well. Let's go back around, I think. And yeah, I don't get it. And maybe they're working on it. Maybe they'll do what they've done in the past, where they sort of just drop it on everyone, go da-da, this will be out next week. You know, like they did with the Oblivion remaster. There was no fanfare for that. And that was great. I mean, that was not a remaster. That was a complete rebuild. And that was so good, it even managed to duplicate the bloody bugs that was in the game originally. That, which is massively impressive when you think about it. You completely rebuild it in a different game engine and manage to duplicate the issues that were in the game originally. That's impressive. That's a forensic level remaster. And it's not at all annoying. I don't even think they've fixed that yet. And that's been out for quite a few months now. I know they did one patch for it, but you know, you do think to yourself, bloody hell, guys, what are you doing? So, you know, I would love to see a bit more done in that sense. What else? I mean, where do you begin? Like I say, everyone's got an idea. There's loads on PC. If you go on GOG, they have a list, you know, games you'd like to see, you know, reworked or remastered to work on a modern system. And you know that some of them are just not happening. Some will, some won't. It's a shame, really, because the older stuff, certainly these days, I think is a lot better than the newer stuff. But maybe that's part of the problem for some of these companies. They know that people won't buy the new stuff, you know, that is laced with continuous DLC and season passes to keep mining money out of people's back pocket. And they probably think, oh, we don't want people playing games and enjoying them. You know, we want them playing games and spending money. Yeah. Sod that. That's not what I'm going to dial into. So yeah, not a particularly long one today. It's one of them subjects where, you know, you can go into all sorts of different different stuff, I suppose. You know, with it you can, you know, have a list as long as your arm about which games you'd like to see remastered. The point is that in the vast majority of cases there is no real reason. You know, it's just more often than not they know that if you're playing that, you're not playing the latest wallet vampire game, you know. And I think that says it all, doesn't it? And that means that they know what they're doing is crap. They know that what they're putting out there is trashy. They know that, and they say that, I mean, that's born out of the fact that they put this stuff out there. They won't release old games, and they certainly don't release games these days in the manner that they used to, because they know that's what people would go for. You know, instead of playing their games that are just built entirely to remove money out of your back pocket. So, yeah, shame, innit? It's a shame. Night Dive Studios are probably one of my favourite developers at the moment, because they're the ones that have done a lot of these remasters, and they do a really good job. A really good job. But they're just one company. They can't do it all. And like I say, you know, some of these major publishers, they're not motivated to do it because it's a case of, well, you just buy it and then that's it. But it's easy money. It's easy money for them. So it's a bit insane to me. You know, you could do that, and that could fund making the next big AAA game for them. That's kind of how it used to be. You would get like the mid-market games these publishers had put out, and the sales of that would help fund the major AAA releases that they put out. But that's a topic for another video, really, the collapse of the middle market and how that's been sort of supplanted by indie games now. So yeah, I think I'll call it there. I'm sure everybody's got their own game they'd like to see remastered. But yeah, I'll call it there for today, I think. Head back, get this edited and uploaded, and I'll see you in the next one.